Hello and welcome to the Agenda on Politics Social. I am Graham Hughes and I'm joined, as always, by Phil Morehouse. How you doing, Phil? Are you all right?
I'm all right.
Over there in Yorkshire. What's the weather like?
Yes.
It's dead sunny over here in
I
sunny,
don't
sunny
know.
Toronto.
I mean, it's not raining at the moment. It was yesterday.
Ooh. Well, that's good. I heard you had thunderstorms. Did you have thunderstorms in Yorkshire or Lincolnshire?
Didn't have, we did, it was a heavy downpour, but there was no thunder. No.
Oh, good. Okay, so first of all, we're going to say hello to all our lovely people in the chat. We've got One Angry Pagan in there. We've got Elle. We've got Paul. We've got Diz. We've got Vendetta. We've got Graham Price. We have someone called A Different Bias, whoever that is. We've got SG and Gallifrey and Ren. Hey, listen, if you'd like to join our friends in the chat, all you need to do is hit the subscribe button and wait for approximately 1 minute and you'll be able to join in with the discussion. And as evidenced by the title of today's show, today we're going to be talking about Labour being a bit shit, Phil, a bit not very good at the whole governing thing.
The governing's fine. I was just trying to explain. The governing's, I pressed another button, by the way. The governing's absolutely fine. Where the problem, if you look at it, where are the problems? The problems, basically, if we're honest, are down to Morgan McSweeney at this point. I mean, let's be honest, right? If you where it all started to go, everything they're doing in government's fine. Changing around the Secretary of State makes no difference. The Employment Rights Bill is absolutely fine. The Renters' Rights Bill, as far as I can tell, is fine. The moves to provide community healthcare support is absolutely fine. The Best Start Centres, the Sure Start Centre, the Best Start Centre, we're going to call it again, is really good stuff. The stuff on transport, there's plenty of good stuff going on. Despite what the Telegraph, despite what the mainstream media tried to claim, the economic papers are all saying that the economic markers are all looking much better than they were 12 months ago. The problem is, so first of all, the biggest shit of the bed was the winter fuel allowance thing, right? Now, technically, that came out of the Treasury. That did come out of the Treasury, but these things go to number 10, and then number 10 is supposed to say, don't be stupid. But Morgan McSweeney apparently said, no, go along with it, right? So that was a massive bed shit. That was the number one reason why they struggled in the local elections. Then you had the disability stuff. Again, okay, it's come out of the Treasury, but Morgan McSweeney was known to have advised Starmer to take the Treasury line on it, right? And that created an absolute shitstorm beyond just the people that would have affected. Then you've got all the blue Labour stuff. So, some of the stuff on immigration, sure, we know they need to lean into that. Usually Labour lean into like law and order when it comes to social conservatism, but this time it's immigration, understandable. But like the trans issues and all that sort of stuff, that's just come from blue Labour. And why? Because Morgan McSweeney has packed out 10 Downing Street with group thinking people, like people who all think alike. Is like there's no diversity of opinion in 10 Downing Street. It's all the same people. And then this latest thing with Mandelson. Now, the appointment of Mandelson, people have been disingenuous about that. The actual reason for appointing him was very sound and it did work out. But did they need to do more to consider the political risks? And if they did consider them and thought they could chance it, and I totally understand, I am going to completely understand why they chanced it when you consider where they were last autumn with Trump. But they couldn't really, like, you can't have Starmer defending him on Wednesday and sacking him on Thursday. And that was put down to Morgan McSweeney as well.
Yeah.
So all of the big mess, so it's not about government. The role of government's fine. Starmer's, the things Starmer is doing as Prime Minister are actually fine. He's doing his stuff on the world stage. The people he's appointed and changed the appointments of, they're all fine.
Do you really think that's fine, though, that he's taken David Lammy, who spent years building up a relationship with the Vice President of the United States, out of the office that he was in and put someone else,
and everyone else as well. He's got. But again, who's done it? Who will have been behind that?
Well, it looks like it's Starmer. to people who don't pay attention to politics.
Yeah,
Most
yeah,
people
but it's
haven't
not,
even
is it?
heard of Morgan McSweeney.
Here's the thing,
He's
right?
making the government look
He
absolutely
is.
shite.
He's a liability. He's shitting government. He's a campaign manager that somehow found himself driving the political agenda of a government, and he's got no ability for it. No ability.
Yeah, his political instincts are all
I
wrong.
can put the gain up, but when I put the gain up last
No,
night,
that'll probably sound even worse if you put the gain up, because it's the actual quality of the sound coming through.
so
It
yes, I've got lots of buttons.
It sounds like it's
This is
running off
yeah.
a really low bit rate. Like
Yeah, I mean, what is that?
16K.
What it actually is, it's actually an incredibly good preamp, but it's so good I don't know how to use it.
It's so good.
I've got 12. I've got about multiple buttons and 12 dials that I
Are
can
you sure
adjust.
that's what's actually? Can you tap it and make sure that it is actually the one that's
At what?
tap the mic? Yeah, I can't hear anything. If you're tapping it, Hilgara's saying pretty sure it's not the right mic. It's
Hold
the
on a minute.
mono
Are you
pickup elsewhere.
suggesting that it's not that microphone? Okay,
Yeah.
has it changed the bloody microphone?
Yeah, it
Let me
was.
have a look then. Why didn't you say so before?
Okay. Phil's gone off. I love we're doing technical stuff here. We didn't really have time to fix this, to be fair, before the show, because I only gave Phil the link to join me on Zoom.
I think you were right.
Oh, that's much
You were-
better.
is that- Oh, right. Yeah,
But
it's somehow...
it's still a bit
It's
distorted.
routing it through my earphones.
You need to turn the gain down a little bit. And the gain's like
Is that
way.
better?
Yeah.
Way high?
Keep
Yes.
talking. Keep talking.
Yes. Mary had a little lamb. Her fleece was white as snow. And
It's
every
okay.
time that Mary...
It
That's
sounds
okay.
it sounds a bit digitized, but it's okay. It's better than it was. So that was coming for your headphones.
It was right, yeah, my earphones for some reason. Right, I'm going to turn that other button I pressed on. I'm just going to keep pressing buttons.
Okay.
I'll read the instructions at some point. I've got some instructions. I just haven't read them.
When you get around to it. So yeah, I mean, I think that it's a little. I don't know. I think I understand where you're coming from, right? But I also feel like it is Starmer's decision to have Morgan McSweeney.
Oh,
in
yeah,
that
it is.
role.
Yeah.
And that is Starmer's mistake. And I don't think we can get away from that. And the thing is, like I said about most people haven't heard of Morgan McSweeney, I don't know if this is going to sort itself out in the next few years unless Starmer at some point steps down before the next election. To be honest with you.
That makes it worse.
I think
You've got
he's
this
so
fixation
tainted.
with Starmer. You've got this. It's not. Ultimately, you get someone else in, and then let's say they also get a shit advisor, or they get a better advisor they don't listen to because they think they know better, and you end up with the worst decision. No, you're focusing on if Starmer gets rid of McSweeney, and I don't mean replacing by someone McSweeney also hired. If you get rid of McSweeney, but then surely if he got rid of McSweeney, he'd have to have recognised that McSweeney's the problem. But if you get rid of McSweeney and replace him with someone who's proven in the role, McSweeney is a campaigner, right? He can run a campaign. That's not the same thing. In fact, you don't have to even be a very good political thinker to run a campaign. It helps, but it's not essential.
Well, especially when the Tories
You just
have
have
been
to organise
awful.
people.
Yeah,
No.
Tories have been awful for 14 years, and
I have to keep pushing back on this. No.
What, you don't think it was just because the Tories were awful?
Not at all. I know it's not. It's absolutely mathematically certain. Two things. First of all, the obvious one. In 2019, we had two examples of why that is not the reason. The first is summer 2019, when the Tories under May, towards the end of her time, were collapsing. Labour did not benefit. They went down with them, right? And then at the end of 2019, you had that general election. You had, living standards had clearly fallen. Things were a shit show. You had people in hospital on the floor because they couldn't even put them on a trolley in the corridor, on the floors of corridors, and they still won a large majority, right?
Yeah.
So this idea that the Tories doing badly means Labour gain isn't true. But then you have
I would
further...
argue, Phil, that had a lot to do with the fact that people didn't want that iteration of the Labour Party in power, and people weren't energised to go out and knock on people's doors in the middle of December.
Because there was more. There was more. When Starmer was leader, what we've noticed over the past few years, for those who read under the bonnet of the polling, is what Labour did is they identified the roughly 100 and something seats, 120 to 40, something like that, seats that they needed to win to form a majority, right? So those were their target seats, the seats that were easiest to fix. They then worked out who are the key voters in those seats. And what you saw when you break down the different groups of voters, the very voters that they needed to win over were the ones they got the largest swings.
I don't doubt that.
That all proves that that was Labour, that wasn't the Conservatives, because otherwise they'd have just had, that's uniform national swing thinking.
No, it's
right?
not.
We know that Labour's worked.
For me, the biggest factor in Labour's loss in 2019 was the fact that people didn't vote, obviously not vote for Labour in the right constituencies, but there wasn't much appetite for that particular version of Labour. I don't. This one was competent. It looked like it knew what it was doing. It looked like it would be good at governing. And everyone was sick of the Tories. Everyone was absolutely sick to death of the Tories, which is, all things being equal, if the Tories just continue bumbling on the way they are under Kemi Badenoch, that Labour will be the next election in the bag, but they don't. They're having some real competition now.
Corbyn could have won if he'd have just had a sensible strategy. He refused to work with. He had a problem with factionalism, right? He wouldn't get competent people. Labour did not target constituencies. Yes. They didn't target their key. They had. Right, Labour in 2019.
I don't disagree, Phil.
That's nothing to do with the leader. I know that the leader wasn't popular; he didn't help himself. But you cannot say that was the major factor when Labour had they made no attempt to target marginal constituencies. They didn't actually do it.
2017 either. I think we're sort of splitting hairs here a little bit.
No, they did in 2017. 2017, they actually ran a decent campaign.
Yes,
it nearly
and
did
they
it.
still lost.
But they didn't in 2019.
Theresa May running a terrible campaign.
But nonetheless, they still came close. At the time in 2017, no one thought the country was a shithole. I don't think but they did by 2019.
I'm not saying that Labour did nothing in 2024 to deserve to win. I'm saying that it was a large factor that people were sick of the Tories. I'll say the same thing about
but that's
the
same thing with any change of
Tory win or the Tory Lib Dem win in 2010. People were sick of Labour by then and like, okay, we need to change.
Yeah, but that's the point, right? But it's always the point that when the public are sick of the government, that you've got your chance. If they're not sick of the government, you have got no chance, by the way. The government will not pick the mystery box if they're happy with what they've got. So that's always the case. But that doesn't mean that's the major factor, because it was also the case in 2019.
But yeah, I mean,
it was also the case in 1983.
Yes. Well, also the Falklands War helped with that.
I think pollsters think that was not as big an issue as some people make
Michael
out.
Foot's
so it was because Labour
the
messed it up.
Suicide note in history.
Yeah, exactly. So this idea that the government loses elections, that is only half of it. The opposition still have to win them. There's plenty of elections where the government's lost the election but still won power. 1992, 1983, 2019. All of these were times where the government were unpopular and the public clearly wanted to change but didn't change.
Yeah. I think 1992 is probably the best example of that. But I'm not saying that Labour, making themselves look like they could govern. I'm saying that if Labour were terrible still and they won that last election by a landslide, I'd be gobsmacked. That they had to improve their image, they had to make it look like they could govern, but it did help that people were sick of the Tories. That we could blame.
It will always help
the Tories.
You've got no chance of winning if they're not sick of you.
And for me,
the Tories had no chance in 2001 and 2005.
Yeah, I think.
2001 certainly.
Yeah, even in 2005, after the Iraq War, which is tremendously unpopular and became more unpopular as time went on, that Labour still won. Yeah,
the Conservatives, I would say, were in some disarray in 2005.
Yeah. So you could also argue in 2005, Labour had gone. The Tories had gone through 3, 4 leaders. But it was 3 leaders by that point. They'd had
Haig, and then they'd had Dunkin' Donuts, and then
Howard.
Michael Howard.
Yeah, and then at the end, after that election, that's when Cameron came in, wasn't it? Yeah. There is a huge factor in any election that I've seen anywhere in the world one side's just been really shit, or they've been in power too long and people are sick of them. And I think that is a factor.
But these are benefits to Labour in the next election. That's two you've just named two benefits to Labour in the next election.
Yes. Okay, that's something separate. But what I'm saying is that Morgan McSweeney, and you said this yourself, all you have to do was be a good organiser, like be able to put people in the right place at the right time. He didn't need to necessarily be Don Draper from Mad Men, do you know what I mean? Like selling this thing. He just needed to be in the right place at the right time, which he was.
Well, they still needed to pay attention to data very carefully, which is something they've stopped doing in government.
Yeah.
Like and I had someone who's actually worked sort of at the top of Labour tried to push back on me a little bit recently by saying, "Oh, you're not being very fair." And there is a point where some people are not fair, where they'll think to themselves, "Oh, but you don't know what their own internal polling says," and that's absolutely true. But my trump card there is that the winter fuel allowance proved that they didn't actually have their internal polling at all. So they went ahead with what anyone who understands politics will know is a risky move. I mean, I said at the time when I did my first video on it, I said this is a risky move unless they verify, unless their internal polling tells them they can get away with this, because it sounds mad to take money off pensioners, right? And they clearly hadn't, because it's not possible to make a mistake that big. Yeah. If you'd actually polled it, they clearly hadn't polled it at all.
We got a super chat come in. First super chat of the day. Thank you so much to Clippy there for the £10 super chat. Paul Embry, who's the Blue Labour thought leader, said McSweeney only uses their aesthetics and none of their substance. Even Blue Labour have no faith in him or Starmer. No one is happy with this.
Well,
thanks for the super chat.
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? Like, so Blue Labour, right? So they are clearly, from our point of view, getting an awful lot of an outsized amount of sway, and yet it is what the point there is made is that is still true, because Blue Labour are pissed off. Do you know why they're pissed off? Because he won't take us out he won't break international rules, he won't break international treaties. They're not happy that Stan won't do that. So there is a sense in which, arguably, even the people who are responsible for persuading Starmer, to take Labour in a direction a lot of people wouldn't have factored in, even they're not happy.
Yeah.
Like the role really in your broad church is to try and you can't keep everyone happy, that's impossible, but to try and keep everyone satisfied. But keep everyone pre-revolution. Yeah. And they're not even doing that.
No. Exactly. I mean, and to go back to something that you mentioned earlier, it's the details. It's keeping an eye on the details. It's doing these policies without doing the proper polling, the right surveys beforehand to see how it's going to go down and go, it'll probably be all right. This is a government in charge of a country with over £2 trillion of GDP a year, a budget that they're managing in the hundreds of billions, and they are acting like, they're just kind of making it. It's coming across. I know they're not, but it's coming across like they're just making it up as they go along, and that is so damaging.
The point I was making about the fact they clearly hadn't polled on the winter fuel allowance is that they're acting on instinct, not data. Now, you don't poll everything. There are some policy, like if you understand politics and you understand the public, then there are some things the public will obviously welcome, and there are some things they will never welcome. Yeah, like you need to have a good idea of where the Overton window is, right? Yeah. Where you're looking at something around the edges of it, which they obviously thought the winter fuel allowance would be. I mean, I would have put it very much outside the window, but it doesn't matter. If you think it's even close, you poll it.
Yeah.
You don't take chances, because the consequence of that was you were massively pissing off it's not Labour's most important voting bloc, but it is a very important voting bloc. And in a sense, there is a sense in which you could argue, although it's not where Labour get most of their votes from, the fact that Reform UK and the Tories do still makes it very important for Labour. And the fact of the matter is now, just because the view turned doesn't mean all that support's come back. The best way. It's much better to not lose the support in the first place. Sometimes you have to. Sometimes you do have to lose some support, and you have to just then you have to be mindful about where you're losing it. So if you, for example, happen to piss off a few people who live in cities or something like this, places where you've either got a really large majority or you have no chance of winning, like somewhere in deepest Lib Dem Tory territory, for example. So if you have to piss off some people there, okay, but you know, you don't do it unnecessarily. Like the winter fuel allowance saved next to nothing. It was going to be like $1.5 billion at most.
We got I'd love that kind of money. Clippy, thank you very much for the £10 super chat, my friend. That's very kind of you. What Labour have become under Starmer and McSweeney are technocrat centralists, not democratic socialists. Either way, without a bold approach to reinvigorate faith in the system, we face disaster and collapse. And I'll go along with this, Phil, because I see, and I know you're going to say, well, you know, in a few years' time, there will be results. But one of the things that people like about Trump, one of the things they liked about Boris Johnson is they were seen to get results. Boris Johnson did drag us out of the EU. He did it in a horrible way, which bankrupted the country, but morally and financially. But Trump is doing things. He's actually getting stuff done, whereas there is a perception of people on the left of the political spectrum don't get stuff done because they're too busy worrying about the newts or the...
There's two things about that. First of all, what's Trump getting done?
He's getting rid of hundreds of thousands of people from other countries.
But what's he getting done? What's he getting done? But that's not getting something done there.
Yes, it is. He's responsible for...
How many has he deported?
Hundreds of thousands. There's been people moved about. Yeah, there's people been moved around.
Where?
Inside America.
Inside America, that's not deported.
No, there's been people deported to El Salvador, which we've seen. It's on the videos at the fucking
but there's not
Supermax jail.
What you're talking about here...
He looks like he's doing something.
So that's a different thing.
He's
not doing anything. He looks like he's doing something. That's something I've argued Starmer needs to do. You look like you do something. But then the second point to that is, so you say you go along with that, and I'll say this the same to Clippy as well, about it's not social democracy. It is social democracy. Yes, they're doing technocracy, but it's also still social democracy because in terms of the socialism part of it. The socialism, how many times do I have to reel it off, right? Everything they're doing wrong has got nothing to do with socialism, right? Socialism, massive boost to workers' rights coming, renters' rights. In fact, the Employment Rights Bill is not just giving workers more nebulous rights. Labour is specifically, you know, they do have, people say they don't have this vision. He has a massive vision. He's not communicating it. It is a huge vision to say he wants to transition the country in a relatively short number of years to almost complete reliance on green energy, or clean energy at the very least, because we know there's now going to be some nuclear in that. Secondly, that you're going to have nationalised public transport locally. Thirdly, that it's not just about giving workers more rights and unions more rights. He's deliberately creating a situation where you're going to have workers, unions and employers working together on policy. That's a huge thing.
Yes, I agree.
People aren't aware of it. All of these local democracy changes. He's literally got a plan. Whether it works is another matter. But he's literally got a plan to completely rewire the country. How that is not a vision, I do not know.
No, I'm not saying that they don't have, something to in the future. I'm saying right now, Labour have been in power for 6 months longer, 7 months longer than Trump has. And yet it seems that Trump has managed, because, the different political system over there, but the perception of the voters out there is
perception.
Trump gets stuff done. Biden didn't get anything done. He got nothing done. Obama got nothing done. Trump comes in and he gets stuff done. It's bad stuff. It's awful stuff. In the same way that Boris Johnson got Brexit done, it's a terrible thing. But it was something that his supporters could point to. And I'm finding it quite difficult now to try and defend Labour by going, well, they've done this because it's all seems to be in the future.
How does Trump get that perception? Because it's not that he's actually doing anything.
He is.
It's a perception.
He's putting tariffs on all this stuff coming into America. He's driving prices up. He's making the
they're doing things
insane.
right.
Things are
happening. What he promised to do was get the cost of living down, to increase jobs in America. But that's doing things.
No, that's the thing. He doesn't have to do what he promised. He's just doing.
No, he doesn't have to do what he promised. So what does he do?
He just does anything. He just does something every day, and people see it in the news. They go,
"It doesn't do anything."
Okay for me
he says he's
be
done a
racist
thing.
Now.
He says he's done a thing.
Well,
what Donald Trump does,
The amount of people who have left America, the fact that he's
What's our tariff?
destroyed the tourism industry in America because nobody's going there anymore. 10%.
What's our tariff rate? No, 10%. It's not. No, it's not.
Well, 25% on certain commodities.
No, it's not. It's less. The headline figure is not the actual tariff rate. The actual tariff rate is significantly less than the headline figures, right? Again, it's perception. You think 10% because you're told 10% because 10% is the standard. But what we've got is we've had a load of carve-outs and reductions and stuff like that, so our effective...
It doesn't matter.
But it does... Because it's a perception again. My argument is you're saying he's done stuff. I'm saying he's talking about doing stuff, and people think he's doing stuff because of what he's saying. And that's what Labour need to do. Labour are doing stuff that people don't realise, because what's missing is Starmer coming out, and he should be a bit boastful. He should be boasting about it, and he should be disparaging, and he should actually be combative. He should be combative at the media instead of trying to like make nicey and be all statesman and everything. Bollocks. If they're not gonna treat with mutual respect, you do the same thing. You say they should be coming out. They should be coming out on days like today, saying, if you read actually name check them. If you read the Daily Telegraph or the Daily Mail or the Guardian, all whining about the economy. But let's have a little look at what the recent Lloyd survey get.
But he's never going to do that, Phil. That's not his personality.
But he should.
It's not his personality. Well, you need some other leader then, don't you? You can't change his personality.
You can't change his personality. This is just words. He doesn't have to do it in a particular style. He just has to say the words.
Just have to sound like
that's fine.
Relevant. Ivan has dropped a super chat in £10. Thank you. That's very kind of you, Ivan. Morgan McSweeney has got to go. Couldn't agree more. He's so removed from reality. As a Labour Party member, I would like to know why Keir Starmer trusts him unconditionally.
Well, I know why. It's really easy why. Because he was such a good job as the campaign manager and Starmer. The thing about Starmer, this is a strength and a weakness. He relies on McSweeney because Starmer recognises, like in the Guardian today, it's talking about questions are being asked about Starmer's political judgment. He doesn't have political judgment, and he knows he doesn't have political judgment. That's why he's trusting someone else. The problem is, like anyone else, like if you or I were to sit on a panel, right? Let's say a hospital is about to appoint a consultant surgeon, and they asked us to make the appointment. Would that be a good idea? I think the answer should be very quickly no, because we are not consultant surgeons. We do not know what is involved in the role. We cannot possibly judge surgeon, like they'd be, I suppose, senior registrars at this point. We cannot possibly judge them, right? And we'd be terrible. And it's the same thing here. Starmer, I can understand why he might have had a bit too much faith in McSweeney to begin with, because he himself is not a political thinker. But he should at least now recognise that all the fuck-ups are coming from McSweeney's advice.
Yes.
And therefore, he needs to be able to identify. If he was a scientist, he would have already identified the common factor here.
What you're saying that Starmer needs to do, I don't think he can. You say he could read off an auto cue, he can just read some words. But I just don't think he I just don't think he will. I just don't think it's his.
He can actually do it. I've seen him do it. I've seen him do it up close. He can. He chooses not to. And do you know why he chooses not to? Because McSweeney tells him not to. And we know that from, we say we know that. I mean, obviously you've got to trust journalists on this. But, they get told by people working in 10 Downing Street that Morgan McSweeney has deliberately fostered this image of, we know Starmer, I'm not saying he's really genuinely charismatic and he's been told to suppress it or anything. We know he's not actually charismatic. But he's a lot more than this sort of like static robotic performance is actively cultivated by McSweeney.
Yeah.
He tells him that's the way to come across. And it's like, there's a sense in which, again, it's like he's got half of it right. People want someone who looks a bit stable, but there's nothing wrong with giving a bit back. If the press are going to attack
making them look stable. Clippy, thank you very much for the £10. Phil is right to point out some of the things they are doing. However, terrible comms, corruption, very bad policy decisions paired with a lack of ambition to meet the needs of the moment is fatal. And I'm looking at a thing from the White House. This is from July, of all the things that Trump is claiming to have done. He did get the big bastard bill through, which means that there's a massive tax cut up for billionaires. He has got rid of NPR and PBS. He has changed the name of the Department of Defence to Department of War.
These are all things he just has to write about. They're not achieving things. He's got the executive power to just... No, but it does. Doing things isn't just having the authority to do it and do it. That's a bit like me saying I've done something because I ate some melon for breakfast, right?
No.
Doing things means doing something that's difficult. Actually achieving something.
To you, perhaps, but not to the electorate at large.
Well, no, but that's the point. That's why perceptions... It would be better, Labour would be doing better if they were actually achieving fuck all, and if they were actually corrupt, because again, I've asked Clippy before, where's this corruption from? There is no evidence of corruption from Labour at all at the moment. I'm not saying there never will be, but there absolutely isn't at the moment. But, it would be better if they were achieving literally sod all and being corrupt, but were better at communicating.
But this is the thing, like this list of things from the White House, they're bragging about the price of X, they're bragging about the price of fuel. What they do is they say, oh, well, employment's down, but actually, no, it's actually up for native-born Americans. It's only down for migrants. So when someone says to you, actually, the employment rate is down in America, they can turn around and say, that's not for us Americans, though. That's just for people coming over the border and working illegally. I mean,
yeah, but how many is paying their income tax?
And these things are having a genuine effect. I mean, a negative effect, but they're having an effect. Labour do not. If someone woke up from a coma from like last July, they might still think the Tories are in charge, just looking around in Britain today. What's that's obvious that sticks out to people? Like, oh well, that's
the fact that their
different.
income's gone up above inflation for the first time in years. Again, I accept that people aren't paying attention to that, but that's them not paying attention. Labour need to point it out a bit more. That's the problem. The problem is communication. Their problem is not government.
I would like to see
entirely communication. Everything is communication.
I think there is a part of this that is policy and advice as well that we can't get away from. The fucking getting rid of the winter fuel allowance, going after disabled people.
Why is that a bad policy? Because they didn't poll it. Communication. So are you telling me, right?
Yeah, but if communication is going to inform the policy, we've got to also look at the policies.
Answer me this. So where they are now, so if they went back to just after they won the election, knowing what they know now, are you telling me they'd still have gone ahead with the winter fuel policy?
No.
No, because they know different.
Policy?
How do you learn things? Communicate. They didn't communicate.
Well,
right?
they learnt it by making
their
it their
ability
policy
to form policy is fine. That policy slipped through along with a few others because they didn't communicate. Communication's both ways. It's not just talking; it's listening.
Well, communication informs the policy. So you're right. They should have communicated in the
policies aren't formed
looking
by
at the polls and
not every policy.
Groups and
they
stuff.
haven't got the money to poll every policy. There's some policies you just do. Yeah. Right. That's fine.
Yeah.
But
something that
they
might be a little
failed
bit sort of
to understand which policies they needed to poll properly.
So do you think that things in Labour... I've got a couple of super chats we'll have to go to in a moment, but my question is, do you think that things... Labour's electoral fortune, so I'm not talking about the nitty-gritty of them, what they've done, what they haven't done, whether they communicate it or well, but do you think their electoral fortunes will improve by getting rid of Morgan McSweeney?
Yes. Because I cannot think of a single fuck-up that does not have his fingerprints on it.
Okay, so what if they get rid of him and their pollings don't go up? What would be the next step to try and improve Labour's image?
I actually don't. I mean, it's one of these things where if you do a thing, the scientific approach is to then observe the effect because you've now got new data. Once you've changed something that massive, he's massive, right? He's a huge part of Labour's direction. If you get rid of that, you have to then observe before you can't possibly say, oh, if that doesn't work, we'll do this, because you'll get a completely new data set.
Yeah.
But what I would say is if they get rid of him, they could still get someone just as shit, and then you still got the same problem. You're hiring shit people. So I'm sort of working on the assumption they get rid of him.
That's not a comms problem, is it?
Who's not shit.
Yeah, so
who that will have to be.
It's a HR problem as well.
This won't. Some people may not like this, but think about it logically. So let's say you and I could just get through to Starmer. Let's say he rang us up and said, "Look, lads, I've realised I made a mistake, but I actually don't know who to hire." Right now, we don't know who to hire either. But let's say we could both sit down with him. What advice could we give to Starmer in terms of who he should hire instead? Not a name, but what qualities would we have to say?
Someone who can actually look at polling and isn't necessarily so ideologically driven, I guess. I guess this Morgan McSweeney guy is ideologically driven. I don't know
whether he is or he's not.
I don't know.
What I would have to say is, you're going to need someone who's proven.
But how do you get someone who's proven he wasn't working for the Tories? I mean, it's been many years, hasn't it?
You tell me. You'd have to get someone
from abroad
who was a key advisor under the last Labour government. Or for a Labour government in a different country, maybe Australia. Maybe you get Jacinda Ardern. Maybe she'd do it, Ardern. Maybe she would do it.
She would be fucking brilliant.
She'd be all right.
Yeah, I don't think she'll come all the way over from New Zealand, though.
Might. She's worked in Britain. This is
like the England manager, isn't it? Let's get someone from abroad so they know what they're doing. Clippy, thank you very much.
What's wrong with that?
For the £10 super chat. Starmer has invested all of his faith into McSweeney. Without him, Starmer is rudderless and will only accelerate his demise as PM. They both need to go at some point.
That's just someone who wants shot of Starmer.
Very risky and painful. To be honest with you, Phil, I want shot. I'm becoming more and more inclined to get shot of him now. I'm running out of patience with him. He keeps making the same.
Right.
He makes mistake after mistake after mistake. I just want someone.
By listening to McSweeney, you won't get that with someone else. You'll get someone who makes the same mistakes.
Really?
Of course you will.
Anyway,
and at the same time, you will have exposed to the entire country that Labour has messed up badly.
Yeah, they have. I think that's already been exposed.
No, they haven't messed up badly.
Horses bolted.
They haven't messed up badly, right?
Orion Destine, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. Have you seen the exposure that Mr. Ethical is giving to Farage's finances? Will any of it hit home now the mainstream media are showcasing it? I really hope so, because it is a fucking disgrace that he's got this £800,000 house in Clacton. That he didn't pay fucking stamp duty on that, did he? Cheeky bastard. We don't know where the money came from. He paid for it cash. It's so corrupt. It's so.
Even the BBC had that on their front page yesterday, and were pointing out that although he's claiming two things. He claims that he didn't buy it for security reasons. I don't know how that makes sense. Same reason he won't talk to any of his constituents. That's security as well. Did you know that? Because apparently all of his constituents, all the people who voted for him, are out to get him. All right. In most circles, in the psychiatrist's office, you'd call that paranoia. He'd be being tested for bipolar, wouldn't he? But the other thing he tried to claim is that his partner, this Laura Ferrari, is from a wealthy family. But the BBC pointed out, hang on a minute, her parents live in a €300,000 house, right? That's not really that. And her own personal wealth is, you don't ever know for certain, but it's believed to be about, well, a couple of years ago it was believed to be about $1 million, which is not enough to buy that house.
Yeah.
And even if she were, let's say her net worth was £1 million, so that's technically enough to buy the house. But when someone's net worth is £1 million, they don't have £1 million in the bank, do they?
No.
They have investments.
No.
So we're supposed to reason that she's liquidized all of her assets just to buy this house, so that Farage is much richer. Couldn't.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? So, Jovian, thank you very much for the £20 super chat. If you want to avoid a refuck government, Starmer needs to go ASAP.
That will enhance the chances of reform.
Ivan Ambrose says Jonathan Ashworth, I think, would be ideal as Starmer's chief of staff to replace Morgan McSweeney. Just to anyone who's been watching this, not knowing who Morgan McSweeney is, he's the chief of staff and therefore the main political advisor for Keir Starmer. Jovian, thank you very much. Another £20. That's very kind of you. My colleagues at work say they will vote refuck next time specifically because they are sick of Starmer.
Yeah, but you say things like that and people turn all the time.
Darren Jones, I think he'd be good. Put Darren Jones in the job.
Well, he already is.
No, as Prime Minister.
No.
Why not?
Because it's really simple. If you get rid of the Prime Minister, right, straight away, Labour will crash further in the polls because people are going, oh, the project's derailed and all the rest of it, right? If they had, their only chance would, like, for example, when they got Boris Johnson in 2019, the Tories, they sort of knew that would work because he would sort of have that personality to persuade people that he'd suddenly changed everything. He didn't change anything either.
Yeah, but
he made out he
neither
had this completely different
did,
withdrawal agreement, all the rest of
Theresa
it.
May.
But he was really good at the black.
Theresa May stepped in, a year after an election that the Conservatives had won outright, and then went on to win another election.
Yeah, but we know that is only because Jeremy Corbyn, people, they were. I think he didn't do himself any favours. He didn't have that. He didn't. If Labour, if Jeremy Corbyn had a big, appealing personality to not to his cult, but to ordinary voters, swing voters, he'd have walked it. And then what would we be saying? We'd be saying you can't just change the leader.
Yeah. Yeah. But here's the thing. I think that the left and the centre of the political spectrum are loyal to a fault. They keep hold of people in charge way beyond their sell-by date, whereas the Tories are fucking ruthless. If a Tory leader had lost in 2017, they would not be given another chance to run again in 2019.
No,
they would have been gotten
but
rid
Starmer's
of.
won.
And that's why, one of the reasons why the Tories have been in power for 66 of the last 100 years.
Let's just go through this really clearly then. Right, here's what happens. This is the reality. Because there's a lot of people, you're included, I think, you've just got it in your heads that Starmer's no good and you want rid of him, right? And you think it's going to be marvellous to get rid of him. Straight away, someone else comes in, the party's split. You think the party's split now? The party's not split now. You look at the deputy leadership contest. Who have the MPs sent out? Two fairly forgettable faces, neither of which will cause any great problems, right?
Well, one's a massive
That's
transfer,
MPs
but
making sure, the people who were going to be, and I said myself, I would have quite liked to have backed Emily Thornberry, but you look at all the people who might have been challenging to Starmer, they got no votes. They got no votes at all.
Yeah.
Right? So Starmer still has his MPs, right? Despite the fact that they're all absolutely sick of the situation, more of them now are actually pointing the finger at McSweeney, thank God.
Yes.
But you lose all of those. Anyone comes in, they don't have a mandate from the public, they don't have a mandate from the MPs, they now have all the same problems because the communications is still shit, right? They still facing policies that some of which will come to fruition in the next couple of years and some of them won't, right? They still have all the same problems Starmer has, only they don't have a mandate from either their party or the public. How does that make anything better?
When you're talking
it would only make it better if you had an absolutely charismatic political apex predator to choose from, and Labour don't have any. None. Zero.
That's because we're not in power. Clippy, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. It's very kind of you. I notice many UK online commentators on the left and right are attacking Labour's links to the Fabian Society, which is creating this conspiracy narrative of a shady cabal hurting us. Thought, what the fuck? The Fabian Society is like
it's ancient.
It's that predates
as old as Labour.
Labour came out of the Fabian Society, and the Fabian Society have their conference in January, and they have a lot of Labour bigwigs talking at that conference. That's not as. It's like saying, oh well, the full name of the party is Labour and Cooperative, isn't it? Oh well, what's this cooperative thing going on, Phil? Eh? This, which was another party from I think the 1920s that merged with Labour, but
they're still a separate party, but they basically sit on for electoral law purposes. They sit as the same thing, basically. Yeah.
But I go back to the whole thing of we're talking about, okay, if we got rid of Starmer at this point, it would look pretty bad, right? And I think you're right that right now that's probably not the best play because it'll look bad. But what they've done so far, even just in the last couple of weeks, has looked bloody awful. I mean, Angela Rayner falling on her sword.
That couldn't be helped.
There's a part of me that's
there was no way of doing that. Was nothing to do with number 10 at all. That was
that was her. But why wasn't there someone saying to the people at the top brass? I'm not saying to say to every single Labour MP because there's hundreds of them, but just to say to the top brass, hey, listen, if you're doing any financial dealings, we have a person here that you need to speak to make sure it's all above board.
No. You can't do that. That is corrupt. That would be corruption.
What do you mean?
No, you can't do that. You cannot get any. No. It's a personal financial dealing. If she had special access to experts because of her position, that would look incredibly dodgy. You can't do that. But she was told, like every other senior member of Labour.
They have access to lawyers and stuff, don't they?
No, not for personal stuff. Not for personal stuff. The only reason why any sort of government lawyers got involved at all was because they had to check it from the point of view of like ministerial suitability. That's the only reason any publicly funded lawyer got involved at all. They couldn't get involved for her to buy a private house because that's using public resort. That would be corruption.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So, but she was told, like all ministers,
though, doesn't it?
They were told specifically to make sure that they got their tax. That's one of the specific things the ministerial code, which remember Starmer's effectively beefed up. So they'll have all been told, make sure your financial dealings are pucker. Make sure you don't fuck the taxes
Kirsty's saying,
up.
couldn't they have a preferred list of professionals? So, you know, these are the people to talk to, because she obviously
chose not to go to a professional. She just didn't. She didn't. She was told to get professional advice, and she didn't. She just, you know, and people can make excuses. They can think, well, you know, because it'd be expensive and stuff like that, and she thought it's all right. And I get that. I get how when the trust was set up, she must have had a tax lawyer then, and, you know, didn't they tell her that you've still got a stake in this property? So, you know, there's a sense in which maybe what she should have done was to have blamed the tax lawyer she must have hired to set up the trust. But the fact of the matter is that that mess was entirely Rayner's for not seeking the professional advice she was told in writing to seek.
Yeah,
she ignored professional advice effectively.
If they had a professional advisor on these matters, on the payroll or whatever, surely it could just be through
corruption.
The party rather than the government. You're spending the government, not spending the taxpayers' money on this.
Maybe
someone to say, listen, before you do anything at all, private, personal, public, you talk to our lawyer, you talk to our financial advisor, and that's paid for by the members. I'd be happy. I'd be happy for some of my
you would now in hindsight
to go to pay someone.
I'm not sure
so this doesn't happen again.
I'm not. That's in hindsight, but I'm not sure people would, because then it's like a perk. Why? You know, why would they need? Because Angela Rayner, she can buy a 900 grand flat. She can pay for a bloody lawyer, right? So I don't know.
I know, but this
is in hindsight as well. This is purely in hindsight.
One of the things that I'm worried about now is because Labour were making noises about getting rid of stamp duty, which is a ridiculous tax. It's a tax when you buy a house, not a tax when you sell a house, which is like you're coming into a lot of money when you sell a house these days. Yeah. And now I think that's going to be completely derailed. I think they're just going to step away from that. I don't think they're going to do it for the next election.
I actually don't. I agree that. I mean, they may or may not have done it anyway. The thing is, at the moment, they can't afford to be too precious. They need to find the bloody money, right? And the thing about this stamp duty thing is, it'll be, if anything, the Tory press will just have a laugh about it. Well, if they'd have done this a year earlier, then Rayner would have been fine. Like, how do you try and even spin that as any sort of dodgy practice, given that it's come too late for Rayner? And stamp duty, do you know what? The Tory press will not attack it because stamp duty is unpopular everywhere. Yeah, no one likes stamp duty. I cannot actually I don't know the history of it. I can't actually work out, it's pissing it down now. I cannot even work out whoever introduced stamp duty because no one likes it. Yeah. I don't know where it came from.
Clippy, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. On another note, either of you got any plans to do a podcast or live stream with Gary Stevenson? I think it'd be very interesting and valuable discussion to have on wealth taxes and politics of this. Thanks very much for the super chat. I mean, if I spoke to Gary, I'd just be probably just having a chat with him. But Phil, I think that your points about wealth taxes and how they would actually work and whether they've worked in other countries would be quite an interesting discussion to have.
A better discussion is he should sit down with Dan Needle. I've said this before. What he should do is sit down with an expert, right? If he sits down with me, you've got two inexperts talking about something. And whereas I think if you want to inform, right, get an expert. Yeah. Sit down with Dan Needle. Sit down with him.
Yeah. Yeah. Gary's been on Political X's channel, so Alex's channel that me and Phil sometimes go on, Political X. So if you look through his videos, he has got an interview with Gary on there. Ivan, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. All questions on care are very relevant and appropriate. Nowhere near enough is being done to sort out this care sector. I have first-hand lived experience of this as someone who needs care. Ivan, thanks for the super chat, mate. And I'm sorry that you're going through this at the moment.
Well, this is there's a huge political problem with this, which is why there isn't been much progress made. There's probably like 3 serious political problems, but I think 2 main ones. Well, no, 3 really. First of all is whatever you come up with is going to have a massive cost attached to it. Second, we've got the boomer generation retiring. Third, we've got a situation where now politically we need to reduce immigration, and where do we get our staff from for the care sector?
Yeah.
So you've got this trifactor that I think is creating a perfect storm for care, and I am not optimistic, I'm afraid.
Why Labour should be pushing for more immigration and
well,
talking it up, like
we also know,
like the SNP are doing.
No, they can get away with it with their voters. Labour can't, but they do need to. They need to find a way. The only way to fix care, we need more. We don't have enough people to do those jobs, and people in Britain don't want to do care jobs mostly.
Yeah. We got a couple of super chats come in. We got Chris C. Close all tax loopholes. It's that simple. And Urbane Legends, thank you very much. To be fair, Stevenson hasn't ever said that's the way to do it. He says that you need to get experts in a room. He's just on the inequality message, which is very true, actually. But yeah, the fact is that there's
he has called for specific policies that are known to be provably failing.
But
and he should. I think he's a positive voice.
The overarching point is that the rich are to blame for everything that's going wrong in society, which I don't disagree with, mate, at the moment.
Yeah, but then the problem is that then people lean into that and say there's this really simple solution.
Yes, okay, fair enough. And you know I don't like simple solutions to complex problems because that's the way of the populace. But I feel like he is a good populist.
I think he's a good voice.
A great voice. I'm glad he's on our side, not the other side.
You should always. We'd not even know him if he was on the other side because he'd just be another rich trader, right? But unless he joined Reform UK, I just think you just need to be really careful, because the problem is when you persuade people that there's a really simple solution to something for which there is no simple solution, then you are effectively driving them towards the people that offer the simple solutions, and that does not work out well for you. You know, I've just done a video today on like the latest example of Trump voters regretting it, and that's what's going to happen. And it doesn't matter whether these people vote for Reform UK or vote for someone that allows Reform UK to be in. It's the same end result. Doesn't matter how people voted in 2019. You didn't have to vote Conservative to vote in a way that pulled us out of the EU and allowed Boris Johnson to fill his pockets when he should have been saving the country from COVID.
Yeah. But to take the conversation back to McSweeney, we got a report on the BBC that came out about an hour ago. Multiple insiders talking about cold hard fury and panic in number 10 over McSweeney. And people are saying that the buck stops with him, really. Well, I mean, you could argue that the book really stops with Starmer.
Of course it does, yeah.
This was a one-off thing with Mandelson. It was bad judgment or whatever, but it just seems
it's constant. And that's why I say, if I was to persuade Starmer, I would say, right, so here's the thing. There are some Labour MPs who thought, right, they sort of got why they struggled in the first year, because they're laying the foundation, like they keep saying laying the foundation, but they're not lying. It's actually true. They've been setting up legislation, they've been setting up budgets. The budget's only just come into effect, for goodness sake. All of this stuff, we know it's going to take time. So they were thinking, okay, the first year we didn't really have much to talk about, which is not true, but that. So, but then they thought, but now that we've got this out of the way and this legislation is getting passed and we're getting ready for the second session of Parliament, that'll be like sometime next spring, say, that then we can start telling the positive message. And my argument will be No, because you scored own goals, right?
A lot of own
and
goals.
you will carry on scoring own goals while you do not have competent political. There is no competent political thinking in Number 10 Downing Street. There is none.
And
that's the problem.
It's better that they nip this in the bud. A stitch in time is
Yes.
worth 9. The problem is, right, Starmer built his whole brand on being a safe pair of hands after 14 years of Tory chaos.
Yeah.
And there's been so many incidents over the last year or so that he's not done the right thing. He's had a choice whether to do one thing or another. And I'm not saying that everything's simple in politics, but he's gone out at the start of all this and gone on and on about how terrible the economy was and how bad things were going to be, and he didn't sell that positive message. I was at the conference last year. It was like a fucking wake. It was like everyone was just miserable. They were happier the year before when the Tories were in power, but obviously circling the drain. It was phenomenal. Like the way that Labour was sort of like, oh no, we've now got this power, what are we going to do with it? And I think that ultimately, although things could improve now if they get rid of McSweeney today, which they might do, I don't see things really improving for Labour for a long time.
They could improve them immediately. They could improve them immediately. Overnight.
How? Get rid of McSweeney?
No, you get rid of McSweeney.
Yeah.
They need to get someone who's got the good advice. But what will that good advice be? First of all, there'll be no own goal. There's no need for any own goals, by the way. You can sometimes have forced errors in politics. Sometimes, like the Mandelson thing, I wouldn't actually describe as the own goal was waiting an extra day. But nonetheless, that was a forced error because that was, people making a big fuss about nothing.
Phil, I don't think they should have put him in that place in the first place.
All right, so let's say they didn't, right? And let's say the future we're looking at now is Ukraine don't have any intelligence from the United States, so they're getting killed much more than now. And, Trump also applied huge tariffs. We've got no carve-outs for the UK, so then we're reading in the papers about job losses in the car industry, job losses here, job losses there. That would be better, would it? Because that's a potential consequence of not having someone who can talk Trump's language.
Yeah,
if you don't have an ambassador that can get through to Trump. Can I remind people
there were
where
other
we were
people
last
who can.
autumn?
David Lammy, they just got rid of David Lammy. Who had built up this relationship with JD Vance over years. They got rid of him. So obviously it's not that important.
Yes, it is. Last autumn, Trump was raging at Starmer.
Yes.
Raging at him. Do you remember why?
Because Starmer said that he wasn't...
nothing to do with what Starmer had done or said. Right? He was absolutely raging at him.
Activists went over and...
Yes.
and
Labour staffers, not activists. Labour staffers. He was blaming Labour and by extension Starmer for the fact they'd campaigned for Kamala Harris. Elon Musk, who was right in Trump's ear at the time, not anymore, but he was at the time, he'd picked a personal fight with Starmer. So at that time, Trump's been elected, right? At that time, Trump hates Starmer and he hates Labour and he's going to punish because he's a vengeful man, right? They needed someone. Lammy had already done, right? He'd already set up, but that's not enough because if it was enough, Trump wouldn't have been raging at Starmer. They had to get someone because Lammy can't talk to him on a day-to-day basis.
I understand that they had to get someone.
That they had to get someone.
Was Peter Mandelson the only one?
He's superb at it. He's like fucking world expert on it. The only problem with it is he's reckless.
He was sacked.
Whoever you get has to be someone who's...
government. He's been sacked 3 times now. He's the Boris Johnson of the left.
Yeah, he is.
Slimy little shit.
But what did Boris Johnson do for the Conservatives? He won him the election. And Mandelson got Trump on side. So it's actually now a problem, especially just before the state visit. It's really bad timing.
It is.
But that's a problem.
But they're going to have to find someone to replace him.
They are going to have to find someone to replace him because he's become too costly. But the only problem there is if they'd have got rid of Mandelson, right, in time, wouldn't be a big issue. Yeah. Wouldn't be a big issue. It's only because he defended him on Wednesday.
But they still need to replace him anyway. So whoever they replaced him with, maybe that's the person they should have gone with in the first place.
Not necessarily because they've now already made a lot of work, and now Starmer is in personally with Trump. You could argue you might get away with someone now who's just a safe pair of diplomatic hands.
Would you be surprised if they made Tony Blair the ambassador?
No, he's not going to do it. But you don't get you need someone who's going to talk his language. You've got to have whoever you get is going to be shady.
Nick says Greg Wallace is available. Good shout. Talking to shady people.
Yeah, I don't think we want a shady person. I'm just saying that the person who has the necessary qualities will, by definition, be shady because Trump is shady.
Yes, but why have we moved? I mean, I'm not saying David Lammy is shady, but like I can't understand the logic.
Oh no, we shouldn't have moved. I mean, I was clear about that. He should have stayed.
The Foreign Office. So if the argument is there was no one else who could possibly be this close to these people, then they've just got rid of a secret weapon that they had, which seems a bit mad to me because Yvette Cooper, as far as I'm aware, has no relationship with Trump or JD Vance.
Or anyone.
Another misstep by Starmer. It's his decision, and I think ultimately
it is his decision, but it's come from advice from McSweeney. You give him a better advisor, all of a sudden. If Starmer had a proper political advisor, you'd be thinking the sun shines out of his arse at this point.
Yeah. Well,
entirely about the advice. Not every political leader can be themselves a good politician. Labour have almost no good politicians. The Tories have almost no good politicians.
Clippy,
very few.
Sorry, Clippy, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. You've been very generous today, Clippy. Thank you. I've been rewatching Yes Minister today during my time off work. It's crazy 45 years on how much of it is extremely relevant today. Arms sales, official visits, government efficiency, Big Brother, etc. Yeah, things don't change.
Yes, so governments manage industry and they manage communications. In fact, I'll tell you how it's not the same, because back in the days of Yes Minister, they had communications experts and they communicated with the public and they took polling from the public. So it's actually nothing at all. I'll come back to this comment. Someone put it up here. I'll put it up here to remind myself. It's Hilgara saying, yeah, but Phil, it's up to experts. This is going back to the Gary Stevenson thing. It's up to experts to explain the message further. No, it's not, because experts don't have a platform. It's up to people with a platform to give voice to the experts.
Yeah,
it's our job. We're the communicators. The experts are the experts. Some experts also happen to have a platform. But generally speaking, experts are busy being experts, right? So they're busy with that. It's actually up to communicators to reflect the experts, to find out what the consensus is. It's like the saying about journalists. It's not a journalist's job to say, oh, that person reckons it's raining, that person reckons it's not. It's their job to stick their head out the window and tell them what's going on. And that's the job of any communicator. But it's our job to, as far as we are able, inform people.
Yeah. Well, we've agreed that McSweeney needs to go sooner rather than later.
Yes.
I don't know if Starmer needs to go at this moment, but I am becoming...
It would be ruinous if he went. Labour cannot win the election without him. Put it that... I mean, it's one of these things. Sometimes, if Starmer ended up being personally... Now, he is held responsible because, of course, he's just seen as the Prime Minister, right? But if there was something personal about Labour, like Starmer's polling went up with Labour's polling after the election, then it came down with Labour's polling. If people start to see the benefits of it, there's no reason to suppose it won't go up again. Now, if they find themselves a year out from the election and Labour's polling is all right and people are appreciating the stuff, but Starmer, as far as people are concerned, is still a problem, then yes, you get rid of him. And at that point...
That's what I think will happen. That's what I'm saying. I'm not sure now.
But I see no reason why his polling wouldn't improve
closer to the election
if people saw the improvements.
But people really hate him. Like, that people have really got it in for Starmer.
No, they haven't. They haven't. His polling is very poor, but it follows Labour's.
Exactly.
It's linked to what they think the government's doing. There's no personal thing against him. He hasn't personally pissed people off with something like Partygate. BFC Max just asked a good one. They said, should we listen to economy professors like Richard J. Murphy over a physics teacher then, Phil? He's not an economics professor. He's not an economist. But when I discuss things on economics, I always cite experts, actual professors of economics, by the way. He's not, I don't know where people get this idea that Richard Murphy's an economist. He's not. Where do you get this from? He's not even a professor of economics.
A Bain Legends, probably the last super chat of the show. Got it, Russell Brand as the new ambassador. God, man.
I think he might be politically hotter than Mandelson, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
I think that might be a bigger risk.
Okay.
He'd get on with Trump.
Yeah.
He'd get on with him. Do you know what? He'd even get on with Trump's health secretary.
Oh,
but
God. Oh, I hate them so much.
Well, but
well, just some breaking news that's come in. They've arrested someone on suspicion of murdering Charlie Kirk in the States.
it was only a matter of time.
Yeah, we'll be discussing that and other stuff tonight at 9:30 in British summertime in the UK on the Politics Social. So please join me, Mike, Dix and friends on that. And until then, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who contributed today to the conversation and everyone who dropped in a super chat, especially Clippy. You were very, very generous. Thank you very much for that. And I'll say thank you to my co-host, Phil. I hope you have a good weekend, Phil, and it doesn't rain too much. And until next time...
I don't care. I don't go out.
Until next time, I'll say, give us a like on the way out. Oh, we just got another super chat just slipped under the radar there. Very good, Jovian. Thank you so much. How about Phil as the new US ambassador?
No,
Would you like that job? Would you like that job?
I'm too much of a patriot because I would be terrible. Also,
I would be awful.
I would not, even with diplomatic immunity, I would not get through their customs procedures, would I, with my tweets?
No. Oh, wow. Clippy's just dropped in a mega chat. Oh, I just said how generous Clippy's been. Thank you for the mega chat. 50 quid. Thank you so much, Clippy. Gary is getting expert advice already. He's open to feedback and learning as well. I think a discussion with Phil would be very interesting and valuable for helping get the message out, as well as on addressing concerns on wealth taxes in practice.
But he has a bigger audience than me, right? He should just get experts on his... If he might be already doing it, but that's what I would say he needs to... He doesn't need me for an audience. Like, sometimes people come to me because they don't have a platform. Like, I've had a couple of experts on my channel because they don't have a platform. So they say, can we do a video with you? And I say, yes. That's me then giving them a platform. I can't give Gary Stevenson a platform. He's a household name and I'm not. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit like, you know, when I talk about Nigel Farage, people say, oh, you're platforming him. No, I ain't. Right? He needs to talk to experts. He'll get nothing from talking to me. Because all I will say is, I read what this expert said. Well, he can do that himself. He can read.
I think that it would be beneficial because you're both good public speakers talking about these issues that you both largely agree on and getting down to the nitty gritty of why you don't agree. And, you know, you can use that as an argument, can't you? Or, you know,
sure. I have never said no to anyone who's asked me to do a political discussion. But what I'm saying is, I would certainly not approach him because I don't see the value of either of us. He's already got a large platform, larger than I have. So I don't give him a platform. And what he's better off doing is talking to actual professors of economics, Nobel Prize winning economists, tax lawyers. Those are the experts. Because those are the people who know how tax works at a micro level.
Yeah, but they're boring. They don't make good
Yes,
content.
that's why you pair them up with a communicator. You have the communicator with the expert, and that's how you do it.
I've spoken to some really boring people in the past.
Yeah, they are boring.
And no one watches the stream because they just don't want to watch.
Yes, exactly.
They'd rather watch me and you have a massive debate.
Yeah, but you've got the information has to come from the experts.
Left wing and right wing, than watch people who would like, you know, well, actually, if you carry the
do you want to entertain or inform? If you want to inform, you get an expert. Yes, they're boring. They're deeply boring, right?
Nobody watches
but that's why you then have to manage that format. You have to manage the format. You have to
experts, and then we won't have to.
But it takes a long time.
Goose Springsteen. That's a great name. Thank you so much, Goose Springsteen. If I had a pet goose, I would call it Goose Springsteen. A bit behind on the stream, but the previous US ambassador, Dame Karen Pierce, was extremely well liked by Trump and the MAGA world. Should be best to go back if it wasn't humiliating.
No, I think the problem there was she was while Trump was president first time, but then wasn't there an issue because then she was Biden's ambassador? I think that was the issue.
don't know.
Yeah, I think.
And
she didn't do anything wrong, but because she then, obviously she adapted to the new president, and I don't think Trump liked that.
Yeah. Okay, right, we're going to leave it at that. So thank you so much to everyone. As I just said, thanks for the mega chat there, Clippy. That is really, really kind of you. And I think I think you got a good point. A discussion with Gary I think it would be interesting. I'd like to watch it, Phil. So just as a bit of content, but I'll leave it at that. So 9:30 tonight. Please join us for the Politics Social, in which we'll try and not to make any off-colour jokes about the events of this week. We'll try very hard. I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to, just in case one slips out. Big thank you to Phil, my co-host, and big thank you to everyone watching. Thanks for all the super chats. Give us a like on the way out. And until next time, hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.